I mentioned my mom is 1 of 10, an immigrant from Mexico. In our family, in those 10 people, 7 are Democrats, 3 are Republicans. And I think we just have to get used to that idea that Latinos are always going to be somewhere between 60 and 70%. Think of it as a swing voter that requires a lot of engagement and real resources to mobilize. And once you do that, I think you'll start seeing real success.
I'm seeing some stuff in the chat, and we've got a couple of questions around. Let me read. There's a question here from Joanne that says, I'll just read your question straight. Why do some Hispanic and Latinx lean Dem and some Republican? And what can be the unifying message? And I'm seeing that discussed a lot in places, but I think this question is ultimately asking, how do we communicate a message to the diverse groups within the Democratic Party? Look, the diversity is our strength. That is our country. That is reality, and we should embrace it and own it. But how do you craft a message to the different groups? And Cristóbal, why don't we, I'm just alternating here with Cristóbal and then Erin.
Thanks for that question. Something I spent a lot of time thinking about, actually. How do we build? I started that organization, Latino Victory Project, that you mentioned in 2014, really with the idea of building Latino political power, because we are a very fast-growing, very large community that doesn't have political power commensurate with our share of the population. Look at the census, we're at about 20%, but if you look at the number of electeds out there, you're hovering under 2%, which is outrageous. As we studied this and spent a lot of time working on it, a couple of things really resonated, I think. And it doesn't just apply to Latinos. I think this is almost across the board, but there are a few key ingredients that you need, especially if you're running a campaign or you yourself are running for office. Is most importantly, you need an authentic messenger, someone who people believe in. Kelly's talking about the why, but you need someone authentic that people believe in and is doing it for the right reasons, right? You need resources. I spent a lot of my time on the phone trying to raise money, and it's hard work. Or however people are raising money, it's absolutely crucial. Very hard to win without resources. And then the last is you need the right message and messenger. So those are the 3 ingredients as I think about running. And what I mean by that is sometimes, having the right person can be just as important as making sure you have the right message. And I know a lot of this stuff has been poll tested and we're being very thoughtful about what we're talking about, but making sure you've got the right folks creating that echo chamber, crucial. Sometimes, people will offer to speak on your behalf as a candidate when you're running. Sometimes you don't want that. You need to really be, careful with who your messenger is and how, including like the vehicles you're using to do that. The last piece of this is speaking from personal experience. I mentioned my mom is 1 of 10, an immigrant from Mexico. In our family, in those 10 people, 7 are Democrats, 3 are Republicans. And I think we just have to get used to that idea that Latinos are always going to be somewhere between 60 and 70%. Races are so close now, the margins can move, but we have to understand it's almost like a swing voter. And once we think about the Latino community as swing voters in a place like Wisconsin or Michigan, then you'll have greater success, because then you can really start engaging in the community in a way that is designed to engage that particular community that's going to be very different from neighborhood to neighborhood, from city to city, from state to state. Think of it as a swing voter that requires a lot of engagement and real resources to mobilize. And once you do that, I think you'll start seeing real success. And speaking again for the Latino community there.
And Cristóbal, I would never suggest that I could answer that question better than you. But one of the things that I will say is, when we think about how we are talking to different demographics and communities of color broadly, I think sometimes there tends to be the instinct to say, like, well, what are the issues that are important to this community? Or like, what are their like top 5 issues? And that's not really, it's not really they're like these 3 issues that are like the issue for any particular community. There are some that have disproportionate impact. of course. But really, the more I think we have found, and what we demonstrated when we were planning the political team and building out message in the campaign was, it's not about saying these are the top 3 issues for community X, Y, or Z, so much as it's looking at every issue that we have and how does that issue translate to this community? What are the specific things within the space of education? And every time we did a policy rollout on the campaign, when we were doing our higher ed policy, our housing policy, our racial equity policy, our criminal justice, juvenile justice policy, we would always do a corresponding asset that would say how this policy translates for community of color. What are the specific pieces? What are the specific components that are going to be meaningful to communities of color? And I think when we think about how we organize across demographics, it's really important to not have or to not perceive it to be such a narrow scope, but really it's how are we talking about all issues are issues that impact each demographic, and what are some of the different ways we are uniquely understanding that impact?
I will just say one word about Joe Biden as a candidate, not because I'm not speaking as a staff right now, but as a candidate, I was always taken aback by how deeply he cared about these communities and wanted to truly understand and study and dig into these issues that are so resonant, right? I remember one time, long before the campaign, him wanting to travel around the country to support candidates, Latino candidates, because he recognized that there was this dearth and that the folks weren't doing enough. And I do think the Democratic Party is at this important moment now where we do need to do more in all of these communities, but a lot of work has to happen in the Latino community. And part of that is making sure that if you're building a campaign that you have the right people around. You need to make sure that you've got folks who understand the community, who come from the community. It's not enough now, and you all know this, but Google translating an ad isn't going to cut it anymore. You really have to truly understand the community. And I have to give real props to the president for deeply caring and deeply studying and wanting to really engage deeply in the community. It's, I think, one of the key reasons why we have the most diverse cabinet in history, most diverse administration in history. Look at a record 4 Hispanics in the cabinet working on some of the most important issues of our day, whether it's COVID, whether it's jobs in the economy, small businesses, immigration, a host of issues, right? Our national security. I mean, that's important, and he gets that, and he's a man of his word. He said he was going to have an administration that looks like the country, and he does.
That's brilliant. Y'all, I want to highlight 2 pieces that came across there. Erin, talking about your message and then figuring out how it relates to the different communities to whom you're attempting to represent, right? That's communicating with them through your why, through your passion on what, if you're the education candidate, how does education affect each neighborhood, each community that you're approaching? You're not changing who you are. You're changing the way you deliver your message to relate to people and who they are. And Cristóbal made a fantastic point about this is about building relationships, right? As much as our opposition, the Republicans, would like you to believe that the world is black and white and there are just a series of binary yes or no choices of what is good and bad out there, that's not the way it works. And communities are not monolithic. The Latino community, would love to learn more from Cristóbal, is not just one group of people, right? There are a beautiful, diverse of backgrounds within that and within every community. And what really matters, if you're running for state, Senate, city council, learn from that community, find out who they are.
Yeah.
Right? What's a school in their community, right? That you want to represent. If these are your neighbors, go meet them, go talk to them, build a relationship. For a vast majority of campaigns that are not congressional and above, you aren't going to afford enough media to win your race. You need to go build those relationships. You need to bring those people into your campaign and let them be a part of the change you want to make. Right? That's what people want. That's what we need. And that's how we build power. All right, we are, Erin, I got you fired up there.
I sure did. I was like, yes, that's completely right.
Go talk to people.
Because that's the thing, man, that like people want to use their voice, right? And if you don't know how an issue is impacting community, if you don't have the ability to say this is how this will impact, community X within a community of color that I am not of or from, just ask. Have the conversation. People want to be able to have that dialogue with you, and perhaps it's already aligned with where you are. Perhaps it helps move you a little bit to better understand the impact that you yourself can have and advocate for. I'm such a proponent of those conversations, and Cristóbal and I led many of those on the campaign when we were pulling together some of those policy papers. We convened thought partners across a number of different spaces to make sure we had a really diverse variety of perspectives. And I just think that's such a big and important part of building your community. Yeah. Being a part of a community.
Hi, I'm Katie Porter, and I represent California's 45th District and the people of Orange County. For more like this, please sign up at trainedemocrats.org. Thanks so much for watching.